Yo, what is good, everybody? I'm gonna kill the music. What is good, everybody? How we doing? Hopefully, y'all can hear me and Polly. Polly, say something.
Me.
Okay. How are our volumes in comparison to each other?
Yeah, let us know. It's been a bit.
It has been a little while. I also have an air conditioner running in the background, so the music died. Eno, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can hear all sounds good. Oh, hell yeah. Wait, is this the first time we've gotten the volume right away? That's kind of hype.
Let's go. We're becoming all professional and everything.
That is kind of hype.
See, this is why I tagged Atlas.
No, Atlas is not going to come watch our podcast.
You never know.
That's not going to happen.
I got to shoot or shot.
There's no way. Atlas is not coming to watch the podcast. It's wishful thinking.
Not with that attitude.
I only promise. Yeah, Crowned did me dirty last podcast.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness. If you go back and watch the last podcast, there were points where I was trying so hard not to just like burst into laughter.
Oh yeah. Okay, I remember that. Yeah, that was
P-Stone's out here getting his teeth cleaned. P-Stone, I'm glad you're getting your teeth cleaned. Good job.
Your teeth being clean. This game is good start. P-Stoney, I'm so glad that you can be here, even though you're getting your two fees all cleaned up. Thank you.
P-Stone got those pearly whites.
Now I'm looking at you.
We're showing. Honestly,
why am I blown out? Oh, I hate this camera. 1 second.
I was gonna say, yeah, your camera was looking a little weird when I first imported it, and then it took some time to like focus.
Okay, is that better? Do I look better?
I mean, it looks like you looked on stream.
Okay. Yeah,
at least in my opinion.
That's part of the problem with this damn camera. I need a new one.
Yo, we're chilling.
Yes.
But yeah, welcome in, everybody. Noel, welcome in. Port Break, welcome in. We got Crowned in the building. Eno, Captain CD.
We said that at the same time. Dark. I'm sure we can ask them to talk to the higher. Okay, Dark. No.
You know what? I would totally pivot if Atlas did show up. I would totally pivot to try to get you a Sonic sponsorship.
No,
I would totally pivot. I would put my best salesman hat on, and I would definitely be trying to get you there. Also, we got Meech, we got Ralph. Oh my goodness! Wait, where did? Yo, okay, we need to not. Did you delete his message?
I did.
Okay, because last time
I did not ban him. No.
Somebody banned Ralph last time, and it was like such a ridiculous process to try to unban him. And I was like, okay, we need to not do that on YouTube.
No. I just deleted his message. No. On YouTube, only delete messages because I don't even know how to unblock somebody after you block them or unban somebody.
People on YouTube. I don't know. That would be the tangent end. It would. Ralph, I'm sticking up for you. I got your back. It was me. I was problem. Oh my goodness. Ralph can't be kept down.
Oh my god. But no. If they come in, we're gonna get that. We're gonna get like Persona 6 sponsorship.
No. We're gonna get. No, I don't want to play Persona 6.
Immediately, it took you a moment.
No,
it took you a
Sonic.
moment.
We're getting you a Sonic sponsorship. That's what we're doing.
Everybody hit the like button. Maybe more people will come in. It'll be great.
That is actually that is true.
Yeah, smash that like button. It's right underneath their little pictures there. It actually helps. Hit it.
Ralph, there will not be a Quiet Man podcast episode. No shot. No shot.
No shot. Only
not
KJ has played it, and I'm never gonna play it. So
it's okay. It's not as bad as people made it out to be. It's not good. It's still a bad game, but it's not as bad as people made it out to be.
Still no shot.
Persona 6, but shoot for Sonic. Yeah, we're shooting for exactly. It's old enough. It's oh my goodness. What if Ralph sends her 10 tier 3s? Oh my goodness.
No, Crowned. I told him the deal. 669 subs for May, and I'll not only dye my hair Cookie Monster blue, but I will play the Quiet Man, and I won't even just play it. I'm playing it, beating it, and then playing it again and beating it again.
Oh, so you're gonna play it with the sound and subtitles?
Yeah, I'll actually get the plot. We'll do it
my
the second
goodness.
time. So that's his deal. He knows what his deal is. 10 tier 3s would not get him there, unfortunately.
It was an experience. Honestly, the game graphically looks nice.
Oh,
the presentation of the game graphically looks really good. But we're not here to review the Quiet Man. We're here to review
I was gonna say we're not talking about this anymore.
No, we're not talking about the Quiet Man anymore. Ralph, you got your 30 seconds of fame.
You're on the part of the podcast that we don't hit recording, so it's not anywhere else but the slide.
Yeah, it's only on YouTube. Yeah,
it's only on YouTube. That's what you get. There you go. That's all you get.
This is content not for Spotify or Google or Amazon or Apple or any of that.
No, just live streaming. That's all you get.
Yeah, we don't hit the record button until after we start actually talking about it.
Yeah, sorry, Ralph. Sorry.
Wonderland didn't look bad. That isn't a selling point. Oh no, it's not I wasn't trying to make it a selling point. I was just being honest. I'm not trying to sell it. The game's not good.
Yeah, it's not.
Ralph using 1%er tactics. True, he is.
Yep, he's trying, but it's not gonna work. Also, I read Ralph say "God damn it, my ploy" as "God damn it, my Polly," and I was like, wait, reread this word again.
Seriously. But I think we should jump in. We should probably jump in. I actually took notes because I beat this game like a long time ago.
Yeah, I beat it more recently than it still was the beginning of this month, but
I finished
but
it
was more recent than you. So
the third week. Yeah.
It's still in there. That's still
trying to underbid himself. You're not wrong. Wonderland was so bad the creator went to jail. He's out now and he's like back in gaming. I heard these Yuji Naka's like back in gaming. I don't understand. I don't know how.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's funny. He's actually he's the creator of Sonic. Also, fun fact.
I forgot about that too.
I'm pretty sure he's like. There was something I saw. I don't know if maybe it was an April Fool's joke. I hope it was an April Fool's joke.
Who would work with him? No.
I don't know.
He's actually the creator of Sonic, really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, he's definitely back. Or maybe he was like talking to somebody or something. Like there's something, he's back. There's some tweets about it and everything. Like somebody tweeted Yuji Naka is back. Said he's glad about the reports of DQ producer stepping down. He seems like the kind of person who would submit memos that are lies to court. Says Square Enix president is probably a good person. Yo, that is wild. I don't know if he's actually back in gaming, but I know he's back. I thought he was back in gaming as well, but it might have just been that he made some gaming related comments. But he's definitely, he did not do his like 2 years or whatever. Then again, they let Martha Stewart work again when she got 100%. Exactly. Like
they did.
I mean, the man made Polly's favorite character. So like there's got to be something there, right?
And that's it for the podcast episode today. I'm so thankful for all of you to come today. We'll see you next time.
If you dropped off, I would just record it. Martha Stewart didn't make Sonic. True. You're not wrong. Okay, we're actually gonna start recording now.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, let's do this. All right, everybody. So welcome to the next episode of Turnbased Tangents. We are going to be reviewing Unicorn Overlord, a new game that came out, devved by Vanillaware, produced by Atlas. we're pretty hyped to talk about this. A pretty new game, which isn't something we always do. Usually we're playing games that are a little bit more on the retro side, but yeah.
But we had to with this one. We had to. When we saw Go
ahead.
We had to. When we saw the trailers.
You say that, but you were skeptical.
I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to, like, I'm always skeptical with tactics games. And because
I was all in. I was like, this game's going to be dope. Like, I was hyping this game up. Like, I was so excited. And it is actually a really good point. This game was in production for like 10 years. So this is kind of slightly retro in that regard. But I was hyped for this game as soon as we saw it.
Yeah, and for me, I'm like a baby tactics gamer. Oh my god, words are hard today. I'm a baby tactics gamer, and so I've played 2 tactics game ever. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. So I was really excited that this game came with a demo, and it was a fantastic demo, I might add. And the reason why I say fantastic is because they gave you an in-game timer to be like, okay, you have 7 hours to play of this game to try it out. After that, you can like load your save when you get the actual game, but you're like cut off at that point. And I thought that was really smart because you got to play the start of the game. And I wish more companies would learn from that and do that, where like the demo is the start of the game, and for RPGs to push it a little longer, because sometimes you don't get out of the intro plot within a couple hours, like make it a little longer, which this game had. So we both tried the demo. We both ended up liking it and jumping in. And this is one of the rare brand new games that we'll review, but I'm super excited to talk about it. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, potentially, KJ and I run this podcast, Turnbased Tangents, where we play an RPG game off stream once a month. Sometimes it's like 2 months combined, depending on how our work schedules are going or life things are going. And we play an RPG game off stream, all that sort of stuff together, and then we review it. And for this one, we did it March and April combined because KJ and I were at PAX East in March, and we had a bunch of stuff going on in March. So we wanted to give ourselves enough time to be able to beat it. And the fun fact is, both of us almost beat it in the same month. He did. He beat it. I beat this.
Yeah.
He beat it during PAX, but I was really close. But if you saw our copies we showed off, Polly was on console. That was not mobile.
I was playing on the Switch.
Because
that's one thing. Vanillaware does not put out games on PC, really, which I know some people were pretty upset about. And they also, fun fact, like, pushed themselves financially to the edge making this game. There were reports that came out that said like they were almost bankrupt, or like this game was a lot. So they put a lot into making sure that this was a success, and you're gonna hear about if we think it was. So yeah,
you're about to hear
it. I think the first thing to kind of dive into, so the game itself is sort of like nothing I've ever played. So I've played a lot of tactics games, like whether it's finished them or played them just like in some fashion. And honestly, this had the look and makeup of a tactics game, but it was an RTS. So that was really, really interesting. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Especially seeing the gameplay. And for me, I don't really have a ton of experience with RTS. So honestly, my biggest experience with an RTS is a mini game from one of the Suikoden games. And I mean, it's a prevalent mini game in terms of like, you have to do it to progress in story and stuff like that. But I was not really expecting it to be like this. And I know a lot of people kind of compared it to Fire Emblem and stuff like that, and especially in the appearance and like how things were. But really, it just kind of destroyed those comparisons very early on, at least for me, because again, it was very much an RTS where you're like really you're putting units, like you're building units and you're putting units down and you're like sending them in a direction, but it's like they're just automatically moving and continuing on to wherever you sent them. Like it was very much the RTS. If I had to classify it as one genre, I would say RTS, but it definitely had a lot of tactics elements where it was like kind of hybrid almost in a sense, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And I was like the opposite. So I don't have very much experience with tactics games at all. I've played two, and one of them we reviewed on this. Tactics
We
Ogre
did.
Reborn. And so, but with RTSs, I have a lot of experience. Like I've played Command and Conquer. And like one of the big things that jumped out at me is this game reminded me of Heroes of Might and Magic 3, for those who remember that game. That's another RTS kind of RPG sort of hybrid. And the thing, so I've played those kind of games, played Lord of the Realms 2, stuff like that. Like I like RTSs and stuff. So that when I was playing the demo really jumped out at me as like, oh, okay. And like there was a lot of tactics elements in it as well as RPG stuff as well. So like I still got to experience more tactics stuff out of this game, but it's a really fun hybrid of the three genres. It's very much an RTS, tactics, and RPG game, kind of like all meshed in one, which is kind of neat. Not I can't even think of off the top of my head a game doing this.
I mean, I think there's a couple. I think talking to a few people, I think there's, and I know there's some folks in the chat that have played this, a game called Dragon Force on the Saturn, which is actually a game I recently picked up. I heard there's some similarity in how it sort of blends the genres in that way. So it's not a game I've played yet. It is a game I do plan on playing, but that was one that I heard at least some similarity in that regard. But I'd have to play to really figure out if that is true.
Yeah.
I do think it was really interesting because you touched on the RPG aspect of like more of the, I don't know, more of like a turn-based-ish RPG, but something that came to mind, and it's not even a game I've played, I've only seen it, was they kind of perfected the Gambit system. That was something that was really, really interesting. So the Gambit system from Final Fantasy 12, again, not something I have a ton of experience with.
I see it. Yeah.
It was one of those things where on top of the fact that you have an RTS and you have this sort of like tactics-y elements for your characters, all within each of the units that you're building, you can set up gambits. So it's essentially like you're setting these different abilities, and whether it's a passive ability or a like attack ability, like an active ability, and then you're assigning various different conditions to when those would happen. So it's like if you're hitting 50% HP, like if that character or if that unit hits 50% HP, heal them. If if there's a cavalry unit, then use this attack. If there's a flying unit, use this attack. Stuff like that. That is, it made it very, very easy, especially like with my programmer brain. I was like, this is cake. Like all of this logic here, I'm just cruising with this. So that was something I was very happy to see, and I think really sort of pushed that further.
Yeah, and like I have experience of Final Fantasy 12. I've played it several times. Always get to the like end dungeon of the game and then get distracted by another shiny game and never beat it. But with the Gambit system, this is like it definitely was like, oh, that's neat. We're gonna perfect this. So I very much like playing Final Fantasy 12 would be like a step backwards if you play it after Unicorn Overlord, especially with that system, because while it was there, this one fleshes it out a little bit more and also gives you a little bit more control over things and a little bit more fluidity with things, and I really, really like that with that aspect, because it did remind me a lot of 12. And I think this just gameplay just like is such an interesting blend all in one. And when we dive more into the gameplay like aspects of it and stuff, I this was neat. This is neat. And with Final Fantasy 12 with like the gambits and stuff, it's a great comparison. But I
Mhm.
do think like Unicorn Overlord like took like maybe some inspiration from it and went like, okay, let's really grind this down.
And I think
Um
it works better in a tactics or a sort of RTS system because I'm thinking about it and it's like that system. I mean, I guess it kind of works if your characters are kind of like in an auto battle type of situation in like an action RPG or even like a turn-based RPG. But like with a system where it's like a lot of it is going to be you're commanding characters to go from one place to another, and then they're getting into fights with other units, and there's tons of other characters, or I shouldn't say tons, there's up to 5 other characters in that unit, then you're going to be in a place where that is pretty helpful, right?
Yeah, and something that was like really interesting in this one was that was different than 12 was that the weapons added abilities that then added gambit abilities. Like it was just such a neat like they took this thing and they like really deep dived into it, figured out what worked and didn't work and like put it together really well because you have a certain amount of units you can have and then the enemy units can be set up different ways and
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's very much a kind of like sometimes you're going to go against stuff that you're weak against but if you have the right tactic set up for what your character does per like if they encounter those kind of things you can actually end up like winning the battles of things that you're technically weak against or your units are weak against. So like it's such a creative way of like really allowing you as a user and a player to customize how your people fight and who they fight and all that sort of stuff really, really well to the point where KJ and I played this game at the same time all the way through, but him and I had very different units we preferred. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
end up with even the same main unit. We did different things with different units and like and that it gives you that ability to do that. Like there's just so many different ways to play this game and mesh the battle system to your liking and to the characters you like and make it work that I think it's fantastic for anybody like just kind of coming into even into if you don't have very much experience with RTS or tactics or RPGs, it's an interesting
Mm-hmm.
game to like lead you in there because it gives you kind of pieces of all of it.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I definitely agree with that. Like, I think this definitely inspired me to go look into more RTS games in general. Just like, I mean, I've played at least one game from like every major tactics franchise, barring like outside of like
you have.
Disgaea and like Front Mission. Um, but yeah, this definitely made me think like, oh, I really need to jump into some RTS. Like I picked up like a Romance of the Three Kingdoms game, and I'm like, okay, this should be really interesting, seeing just how this works and kind of going from there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of diving into more RTS because of this.
Yeah. And it
But
was
yeah,
a good
this was good.
intro. I think it's a great intro and a retro one that I think you would like is Heroes of Might and Magic 3. And things like that because like I feel like yeah, it's a nice introduction for 3 different like for those genres, right? And for me, it was just another step of I actually really like that. I think I really like tactics games. Like this is the third one that has tactics elements in it,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. That I'm starting to learn that I think this is a genre for me. And I knew I liked RTSs, so it's interesting that we had like the same opinion of wanting to go explore more things in a genre, but it was like the opposite genres because
Mhm.
this game is like a hybrid of them. Um, but yeah, to talk about the art style, so this attracted me right away. I think this is super cool and really unique where they had basically your characters battling and the cutscenes and everything are all 2D animated with like with some portions being like a bit of like a bit of like 2.5D almost, but like 2D animated anime kind of style and everything looked really cool. But then when you were on the world map, it was more like a chibi pixel kind of, but more like new age chibi pixel style of game that I was like, okay, this is super cool because they blended both of that together. And at first I was like, oh, these are two very different art styles. How is this going to come together? And within the first hour of like playing the demo, I was like, oh, no, they're doing a good job with this. Like the whole, and it's good that they have that because the top down like chibi kind of stuff really helped with the RTS side of stuff. Whereas when you would get engaged with an enemy, you could actually like zoom in if you wanted to. You didn't always have to. You could literally say skip battle and not look at it. But I always like to zoom in on it because it helped you learn if your strategies were right. So
by
you
like
zoom
mid
in on
game,
it.
I was skipping battles. As soon as I like had enough units where I was like, okay, this is how I want everything to be, I was skipping battles. I'm like, I don't care. Like I was just like, all right,
That's fair.
I'm gonna obliterate
I just thought
this.
the game
cool.
was pretty. I was just like, I'm gonna look at my character's attack and see. So I loved like the 2D battle animations, and like the team did a really good job of making these like super fluid like animations and stuff. Like I just found myself diving into it more, and that's more my like artistic side like coming out, where I wanted to see those battles more, which was really cool. So you'd like deep dive into it, or you could just stay out of it and just see the pixeled stuff and then just only see the anime cutscenes when you went into, or anime stuff like the 2D or the side scroll anime style when you were in cutscenes, which was totally fine. Like again, this game is so interesting that it lets you play how you want to play. If you want to skip battles and just see the top down and stuff and just see, it just ends up with cutscenes that you see, great, you could do that. If you want to skip the cutscenes, great, you could skip those. Like it's so like, do you want to like focus more on the RTS? Do you want to focus more on the tactics side? Like there's so much here that lets you just take this game and play it how you want to play it. And
I have one question to everybody, but also I'm gonna announce this as a problem. So like you can skip battles, that's fine. If you're skipping cutscenes, that's a problem.
Yeah, I always recommend skipping cutscenes if you've played to get through the game before.
Yeah,
because
if you're actively skipping cutscenes, we got beef. Like, if you are actively skipping cutscenes, that is a problem. You shouldn't be playing.
Yeah,
there's a difference between
we won't
battles
talk about Eno and how he's like he likes to skip cutscenes. Anyway,
when you said skipping cutscenes, like that triggered something in my head that it was like, whoa, you're skipping cutscenes? That isn't okay.
I have heard of players playing this game where they skip the cutscenes just to play like the RTS elements of the game and still got through it. And I'm like, you're missing the whole story.
Well, I guess it depends. If you're skipping cutscenes, there's a couple of different things. So there was a very good point made in the chat as well. If you're skipping like the social link cutscenes, I'm gonna be real with you. I watched very few of those. I did not care about the social link cutscenes, but the story cutscenes, you needed those. Like you definitely needed the story cutscenes. The social link cutscenes, meh. Just get the social link stuff to get whatever bonuses or whatever. I'm all set. Don't like, I don't care about that stuff. Although I will say, even though the social link stuff was there, it was very, very light. And I think it was very easy.
And it was
easy to get
enough
through.
to like, you didn't have to do it if you didn't want to, which I think is fantastic. And that is something with like, for example, the Persona series. A lot of the times, if you don't do those social links, your party members do not level up things well, and it actually becomes a bit detrimental to you if you don't, because you level up different like personas and stuff like that based on your social links. Whereas with Unicorn Overlord, they had that element in it, but it wasn't forced on you if you didn't want to do it. It wasn't like, whereas Persona, it's like part of the game and it's part of the experience, and the part of the Persona experience is that. Where Unicorn Overlord's like, okay, we want to give you a little bit more, like, we want this game. It was like Unicorn Overlord, it was like they wanted this game to have so many things in it where you can really play this how you want and appeal to so many different people. And I feel like that is another element of it, because I did the social links, KJ didn't. And we both,
I did them because they helped with
few of them.
I did them.
Like,
I did them, but I skipped them. I did them because they help with stats.
That's what you did. Yeah. So you did the social links, but you skipped the dialogue and the plot.
Yeah, I skipped all the dialogue and cutscenes of the social links. I did them because they do help with your stats in your unit.
Yeah, they do help with your and how your units relate to each other.
If it's something for the actual, like, if it's going to help me in the game and it's something that is gonna like help with strategies and stuff like that, I'm gonna do it. But I'm not gonna watch it. I don't care about social links. Like,
yeah,
if you want me
that's more what I was leading into. Was like, you did it because like some of the stat bonuses and stuff was great, but like you didn't watch any of the story stuff. Where I watched the story stuff, I was very invested in certain characters and how they like interacted with each other.
Yeah, why don't you tell everybody how many times you did all of the like romance plot things to try to see all the different character endings?
Listen, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there when we start talking about the spoilers, okay?
We're already talking about the social link
stuff. It was
stuff.
27, but listen to me. Listen, there's a lot of characters I found interesting, okay? And I just
27. There's like 70 characters in the game. 27.
Yep.
Oh,
why do you think
goodness.
I had a 62-hour timestamp?
No,
why
but the thing is,
6 hours more than you?
That doesn't count the fact that you were reloading to do all of that.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little later because that's like diving into like spoiler stuff. You'd calling me out. So to wrap up like the art style and everything, I think it was really kind of fantastic, and it was this anime style that I like, the rendering of the anime style that I really like, and I would love to learn how to do that myself, because it's one of those things where it's like anime but it's not super massive like eyes, or it's not like old style anime. It's more like getting more into like video game anime style where the rendering is really nice and clean and everything. And I mean, some of the characters are definitely fan servicey. You know, it happens.
Those ones sat
on
the bench
both
for me,
sides, by the way. On both sides, there was fan servicey on both sides.
You can imagine a lot of those fan servicey characters sat the bench for me. or I didn't pay attention to their social links, so I didn't know they were fan servicey in that regard.
Well, I mean Scarlet, sort of. Just right away. First thing you're like, oh,
I guess I can see that.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. But like there's certain things like that, but it was just an interesting style. And then the music, holy crap, the music was
was really good.
Oh, like I did not find any time during this game where I found the music didn't suit what you were doing, which I find sometimes with RPGs, sometimes when we play these JRPGs, there's like certain tracks that just don't hit with the rest of the like soundtracks and stuff. Sorry, Chrono Cross and the main battle music theme, stuff like that, where it's just like it just feels disconnected and everything. But this, wow, like every scene, like every time it switched music, anytime it switched music for like different areas of the continent that you went to and everything, it all just felt like it matched where you were or matched what you were doing really, really well. And the soundtrack, I don't think they could have done any better, because the nice thing is the soundtracks on the overworld. So like a lot of the times you'd be in a like country's area and you'd be in there for a while. So you'd be hearing the same track over and over again, but it wasn't like annoying bad. it was never like, oh, this is going to be a high piece like violin solo portion where you're like, this gets grating after like long times of listening to it, with like the high pitch or anything. No, it was just nice, well done overworld tracks of all the different areas that never felt super jarring. I mean, by the end, I mean, I could definitely understand if people were like, okay, I just want to get through it or whatever, because it is a long game. It is a long game if you do a lot of stuff in it. And everything. But like, I loved the soundtrack the whole time. It was good. It was good.
Yeah, no, it was. I had no. You pretty much nailed it. I have nothing else to say about the soundtrack. It was very good. It fit. It
Yep.
fit everything that it wanted to, like everything that you wanted it to do in the respective areas. It fit. So I can't. I cannot complain at all.
Exactly, and I'm with you with there too. It was great, and the art style. Honestly, at first I thought it was going to be jarring going between the two very different art styles, but no, they did a great job of blending it in.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that it wasn't all one way or the other. I think that would have taken away from it if it was trying to be like the 2D side scrolling the entire time or the overworld the entire time. Um, I think like having the like cutscenes and stuff and diving more into the characters, seeing how the characters look, seeing how they interact with each other and stuff in those cutscenes, or if the social links if you did. And the neat thing about the social links too that KJ talked about, how he skipped them. None of them were a lot of them weren't really voice acted. So it was a scenario where you could skip them if you wanted to. It was just extra. It was more or less just extra lore about the characters and their relationships and stuff like that with either your main character or with each other. But
Mhm.
otherwise, it's like, yeah, you could have just hit like, okay, and then you get the points. You're like, okay, I got the points with doing these characters now, and you just kind of move on.
Yeah. No,
Which I thought originally those styles and those mix between it would have been maybe a thing that would feel like I was being disconnected, but no, they did a really good job blending the two.
yeah. No, I totally agree. Okay, so I think it'll be really interesting. I'm very curious to start talking about. Or I'm very excited to start talking about the game.
Yes, and the gameplay and stuff like that. I know your engineer brain is just like itching to talk about it. So,
Well, I think the what I want to talk about first is the things I didn't like about the game. Because I
Go for
think
it.
there's a little. It might be a little nitpicky, but I do think there were some things that stood out as like a. I wish they would have done this a little differently, and I think the biggest thing is the fact that they kind of baited us a little bit with the unit size. That actually made me really mad. I know it wasn't really. It was again me assuming and reading into it, but like, why even? You give us 6 squares, we can only use 5 units.
I see
or
what you're
5
saying.
characters
Yes,
in a
okay.
unit. That really annoyed me. Again, it was nitpicking, I know, but that really annoyed me. I was so excited. Like, I was by, like, I don't know, the second area, I was already planning out my, like, basically 3 or 4 units of 6. I had, like, 3 or 4 powerhouse units all squared away. And the thing was, I felt like I was moving pretty fast through the ranking because I was doing so many deliveries and all those things. And I had maxed out like 3 of the areas before I had even unlocked some of the other areas. So I felt like I was pretty far along. And by there were 5 areas, the center one, I think there were 5 areas total. By the time I got to the 4th one, I think I was just about maxed out in like the renowned rank or whatever. So I had like all the different things because with the different renown. So some of this is going to be a little bit spoiler. Sorry. I'm just giving that like based on how the renown stuff works. But like by the time you got to like B rank renowned, you unlocked like promotions. So I felt like I had promoted my units kind of early. And then by the time I was the max rank, it was like, okay, well now I got 5 people in this unit. Like this is kind of broken to the point where I'd even I was like level 27, I think. and I went to 27 or like 29 or something like that, and went to an area where they were like level 32 and just mopped the floor with them. And I was like, oh, this is bad. Yeah. Like, because then my units shot up, and then I started steamrolling level 36s, and then all of a sudden I was almost level 40, and I still had like half the game, or not half the game, but like I still had like a third of the game to go. And I was like, oh, this is bad. I just broke the level curve on accident. Like,
Mr. Engineer broke the game.
I broke the game on accident. So yeah, it was like one of those situations where I was really disappointed that I couldn't use like, I ended up doing that with quite a few units. So I had like 6 units that I used, and they were all by the end of the game, they were all mid 40s to 50. Like, they were all pretty stacked. But yeah, like was said in chat, like a good tactics definitely triumphed over the numbers. And I definitely found that was the case for me. And that really kind of made things difficult. And difficult for me to like not break the game in that regard. But I think to kind of build on that a little bit, I would have been okay with using more units, like using all 10 or whatever, if they didn't have so many similar classes. I felt like there were a lot of, like, in the beginning, I was like, there are so many unique classes, this is awesome. And that's partially because I had missed some stuff in the very beginning, so I didn't get some of the doubled up classes. But then once I went back and got those doubled up classes, like, oh, okay. And I don't think in the end I ended up using any of the same classes in like any of my units other than like the healer, like the bishop class. I think that was the only the only one that Griffin Master. That's what Griffin Master and Bishop. Those are the only 2 duplicates that I had in my units. Other than that, anytime I got a duplicate unit, I just benched them instantly. So like I only really used like 2 of the elf classes, for example, because I was just like, this isn't what I want. Like, I don't want the same classes over and over again. So I do think that like it would have been really interesting to kind of try to differentiate that, or at the very least not give us as many playable characters, because I think in all 3 areas after you get out of the like desert area, they give you units that are all kind of samey, and I was not a big fan of those. Like, that was kind of, those are kind of my big complaints of the game.
Yeah. And for me, like, I'm coming in baby tactics gamer and more artsy than mathy kind of brain and stuff. So I felt this game was really great for like intro level, like figuring things out. But then I started figuring things out too, and I was realizing that tactics really kind of mastering tactics and mastering your unit's tactic system like was better than their level. So if you figured out their tactic system and really figure out how to fight the other units and stuff like that, the unit types that you had to, you didn't have to worry as much about your level being close to them, which I think was very interesting. I'm not sure if other tactics games kind of have that or not. I'm still sort of new to the genre, but I thought that was really interesting that it was like more focused on rewarding you if you figured out the tactics and figured out really like the attacks to use against certain enemy types than it was to just level people up and get people up to a certain level. If you didn't have your tactics well done, you could be level 50 fighting level 30s and get wiped. And it's just because your tactics aren't good enough to stop or deflect or deal with those units, even if they're weaker than you. And I feel like about halfway through the game decides to go, we're going to start being a little bit more creative with our tactic sets. So you had to always stay one step ahead. However, if you figured that out long before it started having that difficulty spike, you suddenly were, you know, in your late 20s or early 30s and levels, mopping the floor with late 30s enemies and stuff like that, because the last two areas have level 30 and level 40. Level 30 and level late 30. The last two areas have those things leading you up, because they're leading you up to the level 40 of the end stuff. So you could break it early. You could break the game early on. You could break the game really early on. You could break the game midway on. And so I even had to, because I figured out stuff earlier, because I was just like, I was having a blast playing around with different units. But KJ's right. When you got about halfway through the game, you started getting the same unit types a lot. And now for me, who never hired anybody, I was okay with it in some instances, because I was like, come on, give me another knight, or come on, give me another this character type, so that I could build this team this way. Here, give me another thief. I want another thief, because I wanna do the two thieves kind of battle sequence thing and stuff like that. Sometimes I was, or another one was what was Hodrick's class? I remember his promotion, but I forget what
he was.
Hospite.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. I remember instantly his leveled up version, which is Legionnaire. But I was like, oh shit. Hodrick, I was begging for another Hodrick for so long that it took forever to actually get another one like him. So
which is hilarious, because I used him and that was it. Like, I didn't want
Hoplite, that's it.
Yeah.
Hoplite.
I didn't use I used him and that was it. Like, he was in one class. And I realized, because I was kept waiting for these duplicates of characters, and I didn't want to buy any of the hired people, because I was like, no, I want named personality storyline characters. Like, I was like, no, I want this. And so I wouldn't hire anything. And so I started to realize that I started to mess around with units more with what I had. And I started figuring out more tactics. And then really, really early on, I was like, this game feels too easy. So I went from normal to tactical, which generally Polly is an easy or normal at most gamer when it comes to like RPGs and stuff. Like, I'm not somebody who feels like I need to prove myself in the hard or extra expert, or on the flip side, somebody who needs the challenge more to play these games. I don't generally need that, except for survival horror games. Generally those ones I do need, but with like RPGs and stuff I don't. But I went up to tactical, and then I went up to the 4th difficulty and got my ass handed to me and went back to tactical. Like, there's a few like things where I like legitimately was about to lose. So I was like, oh God. So I went back to tactical. So I stayed at tactical the whole time, which I ended up beating the game on tactical, and felt accomplished. I felt like I was like, yeah, I'm a pro tactics gamer. What? I probably should have went up in difficulty, because apparently there was like an item restriction on expert. I played the entire game on tactical.
Was it really?
Yeah, there's an item restriction. You only get to use like 10 items in battle. With expert.
I never actually used items that much in battle. I never ran into an item restriction. Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then in there's a new game plus, or I don't know if it's actually new game plus. I think you just start a new game, because I actually did it before we started. The True Zenoiran difficulty only allows you to use 5 items, and if a unit dies in battle, then I don't know if they are dead for good, but at the very least they can't be like revived and redeployed. So I definitely plan on doing another playthrough with that, because that's up my alley. Because again, I won't say I found the game easy, but I definitely think that there were times that I needed more of a challenge, and I think I was reluctant to go up in difficulty just because I always was thinking, okay, it'll get more difficult. It'll definitely get more difficult.
Yeah.
And then it didn't.
And then you get to the end and you're like, wait. point. Which I think that's a great point to make during this podcast. Is I think this game is fantastic for intro level people and expert are like seasoned people, but I definitely agree with KJ that I think if you are a seasoned tactics gamer or RTS or both, I think you should play on either tactical or expert right off the bat. And honestly, hearing now that expert has more restrictions makes things a lot harder, and like the AI is a heck of a lot smarter. They have figured out their units before you get those units, like kind of idea. So they're way harder. I think to give yourself like a little bit more challenge, even just jump on expert right away, see how long you can last, and then go down to tactical if you have to just give yourself that challenge if you were more of a seasoned tactics RTS or more tactics, if you're a more seasoned tactics gamer. And for people like me who's more seasoned RTS and less tactics, being around the normal, sitting at there, seeing how it is, and if you find it too easy, go up, is the better avenue. And it's a very good intro into things where like you can really play all of through this game on the easiest difficulty if you wanted to, if you just wanted to do the story and have fun, or if you wanted to start like upping the difficulty a little bit to keep giving you challenges. There's so much room to do that in, like going from really easy to normal to tactical to expert are all different varying degrees, and like you can find that sweet spot for yourself of where you like to sit. And for me, I tried like a couple rounds of expert. It was just way too hard for me. So I went to tactical, and that was my sweet spot. It was challenging in some fights, and it was, I steamrolled in some fights. So like it was a good balance for me. And it allowed me to learn more about setting up my units better. And the tactical side of things, and like figuring out like the little gambit tactics system and figuring out the different moves. Sometimes I would have weaker weapons on, but they would have an ability on them that was far better than the stronger weapons ability and stuff. So I was really learning that kind of stuff. And I felt for somebody who's very inexperienced with that, I had more fun figuring things out and then playing around with the difficulty to find that sweet spot for me to give me a challenge, but also not make me like rage quit the game or be really upset with the game or any that like that. I'm like, it's so good at the difficulty rankings of the game. And yeah, I definitely think somebody like you, KJ, I think would have benefited a little bit more if you played it on expert, but hey, playing it through again and playing it on expert is also a good plan too. I might actually try that. I felt confident by the end that I figured things out.
When I play it again, it's going to be a whole different game because I'm going to play on the new game plus like super hard mode.
Which that's going to be so cool.
Which apparently does it's basically like you have permadeath, which is kind of wild.
There is,
but it'll
permadeath.
Also make you. It'll also make you like have to recruit characters more. Like I like that, so that's definitely my plan for when I do eventually replay this.
I heard that's a staple for like Fire Emblem games with the permadeath thing. So the fact that they let you go through the game and then they give you like the new game plus where you can have the permadeath, I think that's really cool because that makes it for the tactics gamers who want to replay this again. That gives replay value, and I think that's really neat, even if the story might not change.
And I think it was really interesting because I think it was clear to me that the difficulty curve was a little like the difficulty and like leveling didn't matter as much as like how you set your units up with the Colosseum, right? Because with the Colosseum, so I beat the Colosseum, I think at level 25 or 26. And like it goes up to level 40. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I was able to get through that. And even like I had made it like halfway through the Colosseum. You unlock the Colosseum when you're like level 18 or something like that. And I was able to make it through more than half of the Colosseum just with my current units as is. And then like I shuffled one thing around and it just like absolutely broke things. And I was like, oh, that's really busted. So yeah, I think in general, that kind of opened my eyes to like, oh, okay, I don't really have to care about the levels anymore.
For those of you who might not know, the Coliseum is a portion in the game that you open up in the second area. And it's a fun little portion of the game, which I think was just yet another nice thing that they added into the game, where it's optional. You don't have to do it, but if you want to do it and you do really well in it, you get special Coliseum coins that you can use in the Coliseum store to buy really rare items or items you can't get anywhere else in the game, which I think is really cool. So it allows you to basically, you start at like the lowest of like the bottom, and you have to challenge everybody above you. And it's like you get to pick the unit out of your units that you've set up to battle the AI's unit, which was really cool. So you work your way up it. The issue is once you get closer to the top, it's really easy to cheese some of those battles with like one or two characters if you have their tactics system set up. And that's why for KJ and I, when we did the Coliseum, he beat it like entirely, the first level of it in his 20s, and I beat it like, I think it was like 29:30 or something like that is when I finally went through, because I was very motivated to get the character you can unlock by doing it. And like I ended up cheesing the end sequence with like two characters because of the way their tactics were set up. And then once you do that, you get an extra character doing that. But after that, you can then do it again, and they're harder, and they go up to level 50. And they have a lot more units that are AI units that are a little bit more strategic. So you could go all the way through that. And I found going all the way through that, I had to really like play around with things, level things up a little bit, and like switch around the tactics a little bit to really do. But then by the end of that, I found I was like beating them all like mid 30s. I think one of my units ended up being like one or two characters for level 40, and did all of that. And then once you do all that, you're completed, except that you could just do one-offs to get more coins, or you can play online against other people who have played this game. And oh my God, I got destroyed by people's units. I was like, what the hell? And like, I had to really think about it. And I found myself just having fun building units to destroy online players to rank myself up for a little while. And then I was like, okay, I need to stop this because I'm going to get super distracted. I got to go back to like getting through this game, because I still had the last area to do, and I still had a bunch of like things left to do. And I wanted to get all, because I played on PlayStation, so it had the achievement system, and so I wanted to get all the achievements for this game, and so I went back to doing all of that. But that is also an aspect which offers replayability. If you really want to like flex your best units online, you could go up against other people playing this game with their best units, and get rewarded by coins and all that sort of stuff from beating them and ranking up in the actual overall system, which I thought was super neat that they like slid that in there. So there's no like co-op or anything, but there is an online portion of this game. And I knew they said there was an online portion. I was like, how are they going to do that? And this is how they did it. And I thought that was kind of neat, where you could really like go your unit up against like people online's unit. And of course, everybody's online units are all level 50 and everything, except for I fought a couple of them with like level 40 characters. And I was like, okay, what are you doing with this? And like, they beat against me, and then I figured out the strategy to beat them. But I was like, you're clever. You like figured out this unit real well. Like, it was really neat.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I do think that, even though I won't do the online stuff probably because I just don't care, it was still interesting that they offered that. And I do think, like, I know some people that kind of went ham on that, and it's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's a cool aspect of the game that you don't need to play because it's an optional thing. Like, it's entirely, the whole Coliseum sequence is entirely optional. You don't have to do it at all. And so,
I mean, very similar to like the mini game that they had, the mining mini game, which was
the
basically Chocobo Hot and
minigame,
Cold. For those familiar with Final Fantasy
I found that for
yeah, it's basically Chocobo Hot and Cold just with mining. That's basically it. It was cool. It was cool, but it was also very optional, and it was like, if you did it, you could get maps that then like would show you treasure and allow you to kind of jump into a random area and then like get this special treasure or whatever, and it was some like unique item, right? So
Yeah. It was never the nice thing about the optional mini games of this game is it was never forced on you that you had to do it, which I think is a great way to do mini games. Is that sometimes people just don't want to do the mini games in games, and that's totally fine. Sometimes mini games are just jarring, and you might like some, you might not like others. Like I like the Chocobo Hot and Cold in Final Fantasy IX, which is what the mining mini game in this game was very similar, basically identical of. Um, and oh, KJ, you disappeared. I think we lost KJ.
I'm here.
Nope.
I'm just
Okay.
checking something. Sorry.
Okay. I was worried about that then for a second. So back to what I was saying is that like with the mini game and everything, you could it was entirely optional, and yeah, if you played the mini game, you got maps to get you treasures that got you different items and stuff, but it also helped with the achievement system. So if you want to get the achievements or max out all the achievements, you had to do the mini game, but otherwise you could just completely avoid it, and it wasn't like pushed on you as like you had to do it, which I find where games where they make you do the mini game or make you do the mini game multiple times and you're just not jiving with it, I find that really difficult, and that takes me out of these RPG games when a game forces you into mini games, and especially when a game has way too many mini games and it just feels like
that's like one of the worst things ever. Like if you gate progress behind a mini game,
yep,
more than once in a game, I've immediately checked out. Like once, it's fine. Like, okay, you introduce you to the mini game. It is what it is. Like you got to do it once. It should be a side quest that you can just optionally do. But if you gate progress behind it, whatever, I have to do it once. Once you start doing it consistently, that is a problem.
yeah. And I have a big frustration with that because I don't always jive with mini games. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I feel like I tend to play a little bit more mini games than some other people who play RPGs, but like generally I still very much like, okay, if it's something enjoyable or something easy or whatever, I'll do it. But when you put story progress or the actual ending tied between having to do a mini game you don't like is very, very, very frustrating. To shove your players into that, where Unicorn Overlord doesn't do that to you. The Coliseum is optional. I think you have to go to the Coliseum, but you don't actually have to fight any matches and then come back out and you did the quest or whatever. But and with the mining and stuff like that, they're both optional. You could do them if you want to, but you're not forced to do them. You could just play the game normally, which is fantastic. It's the same with the social links. You are not forced to do them. You can do them to boost up stats and boost up units compatibility with each other and unlock little mini cutscenes that are not voice acted but text dialogue only, little mini cutscenes and stuff like that between characters and stuff. And it also leads to adjusting how the end of the game is going to go for you, but it is not necessary to do them. It might adjust the ending a little bit for that character, but it's not necessary to do any of that either. So it's like, I like games that give you the option to choose. So what you like, you can do extra of, and what you don't like, you could say, fuck this, I'm out, and I'm just gonna do the things I do like. And I wish more RPGs had that. And if other game devs are listening, please if you're going to introduce it, that's one thing. Unicorn Overlord doesn't even do that to you. Like it is completely optional. You can just go do it. Like just do it.
Yeah, you don't even actually have to. Yeah, you could completely skip the Chocobo Hot and Cold mining game and the Coliseum and like never even know about them.
Exactly. Like it doesn't actually even force you, which I like that. But let's say I understand RPGs that put it into the game to make sure you know that it's there. Fine, whatever. But after that point, do not force that game down my throat. Do not make me do that game again unless I want to, because it's a mini game for a reason.
Polly is having flashbacks to having to roll dice in Suikoden.
Roll dice in Suikoden or do the stupid fishing mini game in Sea of Stars that I didn't like.
Oh, the fishing
one
mini
time
game,
I did
right.
like a fishing mini game. I hated
That's
that
right.
fishing mini game so much.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, like, I don't know. It's a common RPG thing to have.
that should be adjusted.
It's a common RPG minigame thing. You can't even say anything. You love Breath of Fire 3, and that game is, outside of Final Fantasy VII, Breath of Fire 3 has, like, that is the worst when it comes to gating progress behind a minigame. I can go off on an hour tangent about how Breath of Fire 3 is absolute bullshit with its minigame.
AJ yelling at me for my love of Breath of Fire 3.
Like, that is, Breath of Fire 3 is the like, there are like 7 mini games in that game that they gate progress in they gate story progress behind. Oh my goodness. Oh,
and then there's
that
me
game.
who didn't mind any of the mini games. I was like, I'm cool with this, and all the way through, and never had an issue with it. But like later on, I start playing games and I find like mini games where I just have an issue, and I'm like, no, like the stupid dice game in Suikoden.
Yeah, we can't continue the podcast unless you mop the floor for 30 seconds or yeah, in 30 seconds or less. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that they do in Breath of Fire 3. And see, in Suikoden, it's like, yes, there are a lot of mini games, but it's like, I wouldn't consider, like, for instance, the different battles or different things like that. I wouldn't consider those mini games because those are literally like alternate forms of combat. Whereas, like, mini games are like the dice rolling mini game, or like one of the Suikoden games has like Beyblades, apparently. Like, there's different things in. I mean, yeah.
Is that
there's
tactics?
different things. No. There's different things that they have that are like mini games that you can do, and it's like usually they'll end up in a spot where like you have to do one mini game, but then it's like, okay, now you're just like, you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to do anything else as the mini games. Breath of Fire 3 was like next level. It was awful. And the funny thing is, the one that has Beyblades, I didn't even find the Beyblades. Like, I didn't find that mini game in any of the. I did not find that mini game when I played.
Oh,
and that's the thing.
and I know you're purposely not saying because you want to see if I can find them or not.
Oh, I'm just not saying because I'm not gonna tell you guys what mini game it's in. The people that know, if you know, you know. There's some people in chat that I know. There's probably some listeners that will know. But yeah, no, there is, yeah.
Probably about to play all the Suikoden games back just to figure out which mini game has the Beyblades in it.
Maybe.
But yeah, so like Unicorn Overlord does this really well, and this is what I feel like things can maybe get away with nostalgia, like older games, and being put behind that with like retro games and stuff like that. It was a common trope for quite a while for JRPGs to have mini games. Some of them put them behind where you have forcible story content, some of them didn't. And I feel like a lot of RPGs kind of learn from each other of that stuff. But then I'm still finding we are in 2024 and we're still getting brand new RPG games being made where they do lock you behind the mini games. They do lock you behind those things, and they haven't like learned their lesson with that yet. And Unicorn Overlord definitely is like, we've heard this feedback and we're going to make these entirely optional. And I like that because it allows you to enjoy it if you want to enjoy it, and it gives me more that I actually wanted to play them because they were optional and were not forced on me. I was like, no, I'm going to check out the mining game. And then I had a lot of fun with it. And then I was, I'll check out the Coliseum if the thing, because I wanted to explore more of the game. But if I didn't want to do those, I didn't have to do those. And that's the way I think going forward, more of these RPG games that are coming out that are brand new and that are not just remasters of the older games where they're bringing them up and they're trying to keep them true, really should learn that. Like having mini games stuck behind, like you can't progress the story without doing them is frustrating. And then having to do them multiple times before you can progress is downright infuriating for like a large portion of RPG gamers. It's just a matter of like we suck it up to have our RPG games and to go through it. But like it is incredibly infuriating that new games are being made now today where it's like mini game after mini game after mini game after mini game, and it forces you through it all before you can actually get through it all. Or it's just one of those things where it's like, I like that these guys, it really feels like the developers, Vanillaware, for this game seem to have taken so many like criticisms of other sort of genres of other games in their genre and like went okay and like took notes basically and then tried to build a game that was like more appeasing to a wider range of people, which is unfortunate because it feels like a lot of people, this game has just flown under the radar entirely. Like I talked to
I think a lot of people didn't
fans
even,
and stuff, and they don't even know exists. And I was like, "What?"
There were a good amount of people. There were a good amount of people that since played this and loved this game that didn't even know this game was coming out, which is kind of wild because it was on like multiple like Nintendo showcases and Nintendo Directs and all that stuff. But I do think it's just one of those games that kind of fell under the radar, and it did sell pretty well, all things considered, I believe. Like I know there were some numbers that were released, and it looked like it sold pretty well. But yeah, I think more people definitely needed to play. So that I can agree with that.
Yeah, especially when I'm like even just talking to some RPG friends or whatever. I'm like, "Hey, have you played this?" And they're like, "What? What is that game?" And like even when I said I was Unicorn Overlord was a podcast game, and I was like, "What?" Like he was just like confused by the name even of it. He's like, "Oh yeah, where's the Overlord of the unicorns?" I was like, "It's actually plays into the plot, like it actually plays into the story and everything, which is cool." But like, yeah, a lot of people like I find is still missing it, but a lot of people did support it, which is great. And the sales and stuff like that has been really nice to see, like them achieving these milestones and stuff of the game, because I mean, like it is done, like the story, the gameplay and everything. The one thing I will touch on is the story is very, it doesn't really throw a whole lot of curveballs.
It's very predictable. The story is very predictable until a certain point. There was one thing that was really surprising. Not gonna mention when it is or what it is.
Freaked
obviously,
out. He freaked out. So see, okay, picture this. P-Stone was beside me. KJ P-Stone were in the back of the same Uber. P-Stone's to my right, who has played a lot less than I have. He's like early game. There's me, who's like pretty well at endgame, and then there's KJ doing endgame beside me.
I was literally in the final, like
the Switch. Like I could not look over. If I looked over, it would be spoilers.
I was in the end game. Yeah. I was in the final like sequences. Yeah. I wasn't gonna say when. The final
sequence of stuff, but then he reacts and then he literally moves the Switch like this instinctively, so I can't see what he's reacting to. And then when I got home and I got through that stuff, I literally all caps DM'd KJ. And he was like, "Yup, this is me in the Uber when I could not actually full on react because you and P-Stone were nowhere near, P-Stone was nowhere near, and I hadn't done it yet." And it was so funny. But yeah, there are a few, like there's that major thing. And there was one other little thing that I was like, huh, but it was part of the stuff that KJ skipped cutscenes of. It was the what you may call it, the social link side portion of things where you could like bond with your characters. There was an interaction between a couple characters where I was like, huh? What? I didn't realize they even knew each other. But again, it's not anything. That part was not even necessarily part of the story or whatever. So it was very predictable story.
Oh yeah, it was very predictable, like, very cookie cutter. Like, yeah, it wasn't bad. It was predictable and it was predictable and cookie cutter in the same way that something like a Lunar is.
Yes.
Like
if you've played enough RPGs, you know where this is going.
Yeah, and you can kind of see like, okay, this is what you expect. And yeah, there wasn't a lot of twists and turns. Like a lot of things were very, very cookie cutter. And that even some of the like character stories were good, but they were expected, right? Like a lot of it was expected, like it wasn't. So I think the story was one of the weaker, if not the weakest thing of the game. It wasn't bad, but it was very predictable. Like I do think the story, if they would have thrown some more twists and like maybe taken some more chances, that would have been good. But I think they did enough with so many other things in the game that it was fine.
That was the big thing for me with this game, and this game very much painted the picture for me that I don't always need a super mind-blowing story to really enjoy a game. Sometimes I just need a good game, and Unicorn Overlord did so well with so many other aspects of this game that the story being cookie cutter, kind of linear, or kind of predictable, that sort of stuff, especially for seasoned RPG fans, and everything, and with a couple things that might shock you, but otherwise it's pretty like you're pretty gonna figure it out. I can forgive it because for me, there was so much more to this game than just the story. There was so many aspects and layers to it that they did really well. Even just like the overworld map where you can run around and grab stuff on the map.
Yeah,
and
that was
you
cool.
Can, like,
that was definitely a cool addition.
And that felt like a throw to like Heroes of Might and Magic 3, because Heroes of Might and Magic 3 had that where you could go on the map and like grab stuff that would do different things or get new units or that sort of stuff. And then on top of that, you could like rebuild all the towns. And if you did, you could like station one of your party members at that town and they would collect a bunch of the items in the area. So you didn't have to keep going back to farm those areas for items and stuff. And you would get money and loot and all that sort of stuff as you kind of progress in the game, which all these things, like you're rebuilding these towns, you're finding new things on the map, you're finding hidden things on the map. You could play mini game to get even more hidden things on the map. You could build your units how you want. You could do the tactics how you want. You could set up like all your different things. You could promote all your units. You can buy equipment and all these items and all this stuff. There's so many layers to this game that I'm okay with them taking a bit of a backseat on the story and not making it a super wow, oh my god, like story, blow my mind sort of story. Like I can completely forgive that because so many other aspects of this game just connected well into each other that were just enjoyable to play. I found myself that I could pick up this game and play it for an hour and put it back down and go to bed. And it was so perfect for me because I'm busy and stuff like that, that I found myself thinking about this game and driving myself to get stuff done in my day so that I could play this game again for a couple more hours tonight, couple more hours, because I enjoyed just doing things in the game. Like I just enjoyed the game. Like and it's nice for me that like for my own personal thing, sometimes I always felt like, do I like RPGs just for the story? And this game definitely changed my perspective of no, sometimes I like the RPGs just because the entire game is just fun to play and it's just enjoyable. Like I did not feel like I had to sit down and be forced to play this game because we were doing it for the podcast. I legitimately...
That's a direct shot at Grandia 3 and I'm here for it. That is a direct shot at Grandia 3. That game sucked.
We might be referencing another episode. Go watch the Grandia 3 one.
Grandia 3 sucked. Like, that game was bad. If you
want
to hear more in depth, we got you.
We want to be true to we want to try to get and beat the game when we play these games off stream. At Grandia 3, I just felt so much like I had to do it. It was such a chore.
Oh, you're not the only one. I feel that. And that is the nice thing.
We were both shocked because of how busy we both were. We were really busy. And then we had PAX for a week and stuff. And he beat it like before I even left from like.
Yeah, I finished the game. I finished the game in like 2 or 3 weeks. Like it was definitely, I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I agree. There was mention in chat from Noel that it's nice that the story wasn't bad, because there are definitely quite a few games where there's like, oh, the gameplay might be fun, they try to do something with the story and it ends up being terrible, and like that wasn't the case with this. Like, yeah, it was a generic-ish story, and I don't even want to say generic, like it was generic-ish, and again, the story definitely was predictable. You could see where it was going, you could see where they were going with the story, you could see the different things that were coming, and it was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense, and all right, so this is where we're at. And honestly, like, I was okay with that, right? Like, I was definitely okay with that. I was okay with doing that.
But if the story sucked, it definitely would have been difficult as well.
Yeah,
and I think that's a great point, because like Grandia 3 had a bad story. And so even though some of the gameplay elements and stuff were enjoyable, it sucked the fun out of that because the story was bad. With Unicorn Overlord, the story isn't bad. And I want to make that clear. With us saying it's predictable, linear, that sort of stuff, we're not saying those are bad things. It flows well. The voice acting was great. Like, all the characters were voiced really well and really true to how I would picture the character to sound or behave, depending on their different personality traits and stuff like that. And like, it was like, oh yeah, this happened. Oh, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And it was like, you know, it wasn't a bad thing to be linear and predictable. It was still enjoyable to do the story, especially when you did get those few moments where you were surprised. It very much felt like, oh shit, kind of moments, right? And I respected that a little bit more with the gameplay. If this game had a bad story, I think it would have been fun to maybe do the elements of the game, but it would have been hard for me to push through the plot line of the story, which was already an issue because they give you so much to do with like side quests and stuff that so many people I've heard talk about this game are like, I've been doing like 10 hours of side quests and I haven't touched the main storyline. And
oh yeah, no,
sitting there, like,
definitely,
making faces.
I got ahead of, level wise, I was ahead of the main story for most of the, actually,
yes. Level wise, you were like ahead of the main storyline and stuff. And it was so funny because I was like, oh yeah, I did this story, whatever. And Kate's just like, I'm doing side quests. And the fun thing is like, so many people already did that if it was also a bad story, people would just never do the actual storyline thing unless they absolutely had to, which I think would have made it feel longer and made it feel like less enjoyable that way. So the fact that the story was still good, even though it was predictable and linear, is such a huge plus, because if it was real bad, and that's why I'm glad they played it safe. The big thing is they played it safe with the story, and I'm glad that they did, because sometimes when you get those stories that try to do that big unique thing and it just doesn't work well, it can drag the entire game down. And because they had poured their heart into this game for so long to make it good with everything else, I definitely understand why they played it safe.
I agree.
It was the smartest decision for them.
Okay, so I guess
I do want to talk about something spoilery a little bit that KJ didn't do too much on, like story-wise, but it is something that is very spoiler heavy because it will reveal a component of the game that you wouldn't know until you got to that point and like near the end of the game to have it revealed.
Very interesting. Very interested to what you're referring to.
So we talked. So that's your warning for anybody who doesn't want to hear like some endgame stuff, or almost endgame stuff. So we talked a bit about the social links of this game, and they had it kind of set up where if you took your people to food, so you could like pay for your party members that you've picked up to eat. If you put certain characters together and have them eat together, they might unlock little story things between those two characters throughout the map.
And that's also, I mean, it also was the case where you keep them in units in battle. That also leveled up the story, the thing. You didn't have
to... Exactly. If you paired people together...
You didn't have to use You didn't have to use the cooking thing at all. Like I maxed out.
You can
some people
avoid the
without
cooking thing entirely. I kept getting free meal tickets, so I used it sometimes to like build it up a little bit quicker. And for example, what I ended up doing, which KJ was picking on me earlier in this podcast for, was that I sat there because I had done it so much throughout the game. I didn't have to do too much of it at the end. But when I realized there was a part in the game where you can change the ending of the game, not only for your individual characters on what comes up at the end, but who your main character basically bonds with in the end, aka Mary. In the end, you get to pick that for them. And at first I thought it was like, oh, it's only going to be a couple of your characters. No. You have 70, I think almost 70 playable characters, and it's all of them. You can literally, in this game, which I find incredibly progressive, you could marry, aka like put your main character together with anyone. You can pair them up with the guys in your party, the women in your parties, the damn lion in your party. You can pair him up with the lion. And I thought that was so great of them to add that in. While it's not super important and it wouldn't have been like a knock to them not, I thought that was fantastic because it made me somebody who really likes trying different endings and trying different pairings and stuff. I sat there with a save file just before picking, and I went around. I took like my favorite characters. So there was like, yes, there was 27 in the end that I was like, oh, I could see maybe my main character with these 27 different characters. So I built it all up so that I saw all the cutscenes, all the things, built it all up so that they were in the ability to choose them for marriage, saved it just before, and went through them one by one until I found the one I liked the most.
That is wild. That is a lot.
I was committed to the relationship part of this game, even though it was such a minor portion of this game. It's such a tiny little thing that is not at all important that you need to do.
This is the classic Poly thing of latching on to something that is so small in the game and like spending like 6 hours on it at least. Like that is.
It was definitely like 6 hours. Yeah.
Absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
I went through and I was like, oh, I have maxed out things with all these people. Cool. I'm just going to do the canon one and I'm going to be done with it. Like, I was just like, this would be cool to like see some of these things. Maybe I'll YouTube it at some point. But like, I'm cool. I'm just going to go with the canon ending or the canon pairing. So, especially because they were in the same thing anyway. And I wanted them to have like, you got the special item. So it was like, once you got the special items, it made that unit broken because
it did.
I had maxed out resources at that point with Elaine and Scarlet. So I was like, all right, cool. This unit's broken. Like, I don't need to do anything else.
Yeah, and like the default they kind of push towards you since the plotline of the game is Scarlet. And me being the person who finds the default, I was like, no, that's just too easy. I want to challenge myself and see. It was really cool because you got these two items and whoever you gave it to, aka proposed to Mary, got that item too. So if they were in your unit, it became overpowered. But some of the characters that I was playing around with weren't in my unit. So I had to throw them in the unit in the end. So that was also part of my decision. But yeah, I went through 27 of them, looking at them all. Some of them were pure humor.
Didn't you go through one of them with Virginia? You sent me a screenshot of you picking Virginia. That's weird.
Okay, so that was the humor one.
I had to call that one out. Virginia was one of, if not my favorite character, but that's weird. They're cousins.
Yeah. Okay, so let me lead into this because I think this is like the funniest part of the game that I ended up doing. When I found out I could do that, I was like, is it every character? No, it's not every character. So I went through the plot line for Virginia to see if she was, because in the entire scope of this game, she's your cousin. First of all, she looks like your mother, like your mother in this game, and she's like ends up being super protective over you like a sibling. So all of that together, you're like, no, they wouldn't have done this, right? Wrong. You can marry your sister cousin who looks like your mother. And I was like, no.
That's so weird.
No. And I had to. At that point, I was like, curiosity has me now.
No,
I need
that's
to
not
know
something I want to try for science. Nope.
I need to know
I'm
for science because I wanted to see not only KJ's reaction to me doing it, but also everybody else who I knew was further than me or had already beat the game, like Dark. I had to send it to them to like be like, oh
weird.
my God. And it was so cringy the whole time. Like the whole sequence, she comes up and she's like, I knew you would pick me. And I was like, oh, this is fucking gross. Like, why? Why would you know? And then she's like, so give me the ring already. And he's like, oh, okay. And like the whole time, your main character, Elaine, is just like, oh, okay. And then honest to goodness, she is the only one out of 27 that they lean in to kiss and it blacks. It fades to black. The only one out of 27. Some of them, yeah, like even with Scarlet, they like get close and snuggly, but they don't lean in to kiss. Literally, I tried 27 different characters in the sequence.
I wish I didn't know that.
The sister cousin is the only one where they look like they're about to kiss before it fades to black. I
wish I didn't know that. That's uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable. And I feel like the devs slipped that in there as like a joke. I hope it's a joke. I'm hoping it's a joke.
Why the fuck would you do this joke?
Exactly. So it's like a reward
your punishment
of like,
for
what are you doing?
Trying
this is the most cringes. And I was like, oh,
so who did you actually progress the story with?
So I'm going to let you guess once. Just guess once. Who do you think? And it's not Scarlet, obviously, because I said I didn't pick
the freaking Amelia or whatever her name is.
Okay, you know what's funny? She was my first choice in this 27 to pick. And it's so funny. Their romance is Amelia walks up and she's like, why are you calling me here? And he's like, oh, you know, like he goes through his little speech and she goes, she literally, her eyes pan down and up and she's like, fight me. And he's like, what? And she's like, fight me. No man is ever gonna get this hand unless they fight me and beat me in a battle. Literally, your whole sequence with her is you beat her.
That doesn't surprise me.
You beat her in a battle. Like it's like a one-on-one, they fight and he wins. And he's like, you will marry me. And she's like, she blushes and she's like, no one has ever conquered me. I would be honored to marry you. And I was like, what the hell? And then at the end, she's like, oh, and by the way, if you ever get weak and I end up beating you, this is over. And he's like, don't worry, that'll never happen. And I was like, what is this relationship right now? I don't know. Am I supporting violence? I don't understand. I felt as much as I liked her as a character, I was like, there's my mountain. I was like, no, I can't marry my mountain. I can't. Not with that sequence. The one I ended up actually going with was Travis.
Interesting.
So Travis was my favorite character for pretty well since the beginning of the game. I even did the bromance. I did the bromance where it was Lex and Elaine, and that was hilarious, by the way. Lex makes it an entire joke the whole time, and it's fucking funny. I tried the Clive, and that was just no. Tried
Elaine
the Lion.
And Clive. If I'm gonna ship any bromance, it's Elaine and Clive. They were in the same unit for me for the entire game. They were OP as fuck for the entire game.
Oh yeah, Clive was like in my main unit the entire time too. So I thought it would be funny for them to go together. But Clive, when you do all the like sequences to get Clive as an option, he talks about like wanting to go away and help his people and help his hometown and all this stuff. So and he kind of alludes to that in the thing. So I was like, well, I don't want to take him away from his like dreams. This seems weird. Like, I feel like I'm forcing this guy to marry me and it feels weird. I tried like Unify, which is the ice queen girl or whatever from the ice place. And she was very much like, oh, she made me laugh because she goes, so they're like, okay, they go through the marriage sequence. And she's like, I'm so glad that you chose me. I never had a family before. And I'm so excited to start one with you. And he's like, oh yeah, the two of us together will be great. She's like, not what I meant. and he goes red and it fades and I lost it. I was like, oh my God.
You put way more into
she wants
this.
him and stuff. So I tried these. I even tried the line, and it's so funny because you do the line. He's like, what did you call me here for? He's like, I want to do that. He's like, I'm a damn lion, man. And he's like, yeah, but we just have this bond. He's like, I am a lion. And he like forces it thing. And then they kind of like then Elaine goes through the reason. He's like, oh, okay, I could kind of see your reasoning for this. So they do the whole thing. And Elaine's like, I really hope that I'll have your strength beside my side. He's like, yeah, you better since you're marrying a lion. Like he calls you out the whole time. And I was like, okay, this one was almost the one I chose. But the Travis one was so wholesome that I actually got emotional over it. And Travis
of course
likes books. So first of all, you call Travis up and he's like, what's going on? What do you need? And he's like, oh, I want to do this with you. And he's like, do I look like a damn maiden to you? And Elaine's like, well, no, I look at it as more as like, not looking at the main like the appearance of it, but you were more than that to me. And he like kind of goes off and Travis is like, oh, and Travis like blushes and everything too during the sequence. He's like, oh, okay. And you go through the sequence and he's like, I like books. Can we maybe build a library? And Elaine's like, absolutely. When this is over, let's build a library together. And their whole story at the end is they build the biggest library in all the kingdom. And they end up sitting side by side, reading books together and enjoying the peace and quiet in their new library that they built for each other. And it's so sweet and wholesome.
Okay,
and I'm like, I did not expect this at all from the thief.
Okay.
Like, the rogue of the group. I did not expect this. And every other one that I went through, I was just like, no, that's the most wholesome one where it was like, he's just like, oh, I really like that. And I would really like a thing. And they end up in this library together, sitting side by side, reading books together and like being all cute and everything together. And it's so goddamn sweet that I was like, nah, this is the one I picked. This is the one I want.
See, I would have never seen that because I didn't really care for Travis all that much after like the beginning of the game. Like in the beginning of the game, I was like, oh, Travis is a cool character. And then he kind of fell off in combat. And I was like, okay, Travis is okay. And then like he ended up on one of the units that I was using, but he was just like in a, like kind of just in that unit because I needed another character. He wasn't really one of the characters that I used.
Yeah, and for me with Travis, I was like the opposite. I had Travis. He kind of was my broken unit right at the beginning, and then as things got harder, he wasn't. But I started to like change him around with different units and stuff, and I found another broken team, and he ended up being a part of my one of 3 teams that were like super broken. And then when I paired him up with Elaine at the end because he had the Ring of the Maiden, so I had to put them together. Holy shit, the team was unstoppable. They were absolutely unstoppable with the tactics and stuff I set up, and I ended up enjoying him. And he was one of those characters which caught me off guard with his story and everything, and his personality are very much not like the thief rogue that I was used to. Like Gamel, one of the thief rogues you get, was very much on point, but like with Travis, it was very like out there. And then when he was talking about reading and you like gift him books and stuff like that, and it ups his thing a lot. If you gave Travis books, he like shot up. And then you started to learn more and more about him in his like little thing to make him a character that you can marry. And then going through all the sequences of all the characters in the end, he's not with his sister and he ends up with you, like he stays with you at the end, and he's standing there with them, and they're like leaning in, and then it like fades to black of talking about like they built the world's biggest library and helped the education system of the kingdom, and they could be seen often together side by side reading books, like leaning on each other. And I was like, this is so cute. So I was like, I didn't expect that from him at all, like at all.
I left him with his
sister
the entire time. Like him and his sister were together. Actually, I took screenshots of my units. So like, just so that I would have it for a reference because it's been so long. And yeah, I did, like, I used him. He actually had his own unit, and I did end up kind of using them later on. But he was the person in that unit because, like, the head of that unit because of the quick rest time.
Oh yes, I love that.
But yeah, like
I was so
that
handy.
unit was definitely one that I didn't necessarily force too much until I ended up moving the druid to that unit. Then it was broken. Druid is like
Super broken.
one of the most
Druid is
broken
strongest.
classes in the game.
Oddly enough, the druid was not fun to romance.
That doesn't surprise me.
Because she was just like, I'm a curious person. This is curious. This sounds great. And then you get through it and she's just like, I'm going to go on an adventure. And she doesn't stay with you. And I was like, okay, bye. Like, all right, I'm good. But yeah, like the druid in this game is super broken, the shaman character, and super, super powerful. One of my strongest units in the game was her part of the party. And yeah, it originally, that unit was like Travis, his sister, the druid, one of the Griffin Riders, Celeste, I think. Oh, and one of the elven ladies. And
that's
that
very
unit,
similar. That the only difference is that I had one of the mage elven units, and I had, instead of a flying unit, I had Rolf.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, she was a mage, but she was like one of the polearm ones, and she had both healing and really big magic attacks, which I liked the balance of it, so I put her there. And then I had Celeste instead of Rolf. But that unit ended up like mopping the floor with everything. If Elaine's unit couldn't handle it, that unit could. And I put the flying unit, Celeste, as the leader, so they could just like go to the end of the map and just wipe everything out. It was great until the end of the game when I picked Travis as the thing. Then I had to put Travis in my main party, so I had to like rearrange things a little bit. So I changed that unit a bit. It was still super OP, but I had to change it around a little bit. But so for your end unit, what was your end Elaine unit in the end?
Oh, my end Elaine unit was Elaine, Clive, Berenice, Scarlet, and Yana. Like the being able to, like, Elaine and Clive pretty much could handle everything themselves, and the only things they couldn't handle were like things that were weak to magic. So once I was able to like enchant their weapons with magic, and then
it was over. Yeah.
Also have like Scarlet to heal, and then Berenice to just do other like big damage with like counters and shit, it was over. And when I did need a little bit extra, I would swap Berenice out for the druid. So that way the druid would basically just make it so that everything missed, because I had like the sandstorm or whatever ability. Everything would miss. I basically, so good. I set her up so that she always went first.
Yeah,
and
she always went first. She had high initiative, and then she did that sandstorm, and it was over for the unit.
Nothing could hit, and then Clive and Elaine just
unless you were fighting another shaman doing a similar strat, then it was basically like, oh shit. But like even then, for me with Elaine, we had identical Elaine units except for my 5th member. Ended up being Travis like for the end thing because I had to have him there. But up until that point, I kept having the 5th character kind of float around because I kept trying different characters. But I ended up settling on the wing Renaris.
That person sat the bench for me.
Yeah.
They came in too late.
By the time you get her in the game, totally understand why she sat the bench.
I was using the other feather sword the entire time.
Okay, yeah.
So
that's why.
By the time you get that unit, it was too late.
Yeah,
and
the other one was
feather
where
sword,
I didn't use that other feather sword at all. I hardly ever used them, and then when that one came out, when they had like a few extra things, I changed around their tactics a bit and I threw them in there. But yeah, I had Yana in there, Scarlet, Clive and Elaine never separated. I did have Chloe in there for a while, but then I moved Chloe with Lex.
I had Chloe with Lex as well.
I like their relationship with each other, their friendship. So I was like, I'll put them, and they were just really good together as units. So I put them together. But yeah, one thing I really loved about this game with the characters is all the characters' personalities and stuff were all a little unique from all of each other. And they did a really good job at like making them all a little unique between each other. Like to have 70 playable characters and to have them all different from each other. is difficult. And even unit types who were the same were different. Like I even one of the marriage things that I did was Celeste, the Griffin Rider. And her whole thing is she always dreamed to be a princess. So like Elena's like, now you will be. And she like gets so blushy. And she's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She's like, can I bring my Griffin? Can my Griffin be a part of this? And I was like, what? And at first I went to the thing, but she meant as like, can I keep my like Griffin pet? And I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was going in a very weird direction at first. And I was like, oh God, but no. It ended up being fine or whatever. But yeah, it was so cool, like how many like the storylines and stuff like that of the characters were, and they were all like different from each other, and they were all really unique. But good Lord, I did not like I did it for the lulz, but that Virginia, like, I don't know if any of the other characters, I don't know anybody else who's in chat currently right now. Is there any other character that leans in for a kiss and then it fades to black? Because the only one I found was Virginia, and that was really freaking weird. So like,
I think you did more of these than any of us. That's my guess.
I did 27, but there's still 70 characters.
Yeah, but doing saving and reloading 27 times is a lot.
I was mad because the game, after you beat it, lets you do that easier. And I was like, son of a, I should have waited until I beat the game to do it, but that's fine. That's fine.
Oh my goodness.
The end of the game allows you to do that easier so that you could get the different endings easier. And I didn't realize that. So I did that all before I beat the game. So I wasted so much extra time doing that, but that's okay.
Wow. Yeah, no, it wasn't even something that crossed my mind. I was like, I'm gonna do the canon ending, and we're good.
Yep, I knew you would. That's the thing. I knew you would, so I also wanted to add a little bit to it. But also, I like this kind of stuff. Like, I like figuring this out. This is fun for me, and I had a blast. And Edo just kept laughing at me because I kept being like, "Oh my God, this is cute! Oh my God, this is so cringy!" And like literally, when I was doing the Virginia one, he's like, dude, I was like, "Don't say it! Don't say it!" And he just had this like his usual shit-eating grin on his face. And I was like, I know what you're thinking, but don't say it. And I literally said that to Dark, and Dark said what I knew Enno was thinking. And I was like, damn it, the two of you are too similar. But yeah, honestly, it was a fun portion of the game, but that was more of a me. I knew you weren't gonna do it, and I knew a lot of the people playing.
It was one of those things. It was one of those things where I was like, this is the canon, this is what they want you to do. And like,
they definitely push you to Scarlet, yeah.
And so here's the thing. It's like, that's the canon, and my favorite character was Virginia, so I wasn't doing that. Like, the only time I would ever deviate from the canon would be to do it with to have my favorite character as part of it, and that wasn't happening. So I was just like, okay, we're good. Like, just move on.
And the funny thing is, when you pick, like, so Scarlet's like leading up being like, I don't know if I'm going to be the Pontiff or whatever. So when you don't pick her, I figured she'd go back and be the Pontiff, right? No, she doesn't. She just ends up back out of the solitary island and be a priestess alone. And I was like, this is actually really depressing for Scarlet's like end story to not be with Elaine. Like, it's actually like sadder when you don't pick her, because it's like she just goes to this like back to that island and she's like, I'm a priestess here, and like gave up the Pontiff or whatever to the guy who
if that's what she wants to do, then that's fine.
Yeah, I know, but it just was like, she's just like they're alone, and it just felt like, oh, you're all alone, like nobody's here with you. Like, it just felt a little bit like very much this game was set up that wants you to pick her for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they always have like what they want the canon option to be. So that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I knew you were gonna pick it, unless you wanted your favorite character or something like that. But like, I actually didn't know your favorite character was Virginia. Fun fact.
Hard pass. I'm all set with that.
No, like,
that's weird.
The sister cousin was very, very disturbing. Anyway, I think we've talked a lot about the game. Do we want to talk about? So I'm gonna ask you, what would you rate this game out of 10?
This game was like a solid. It was like a solid 9. I think it did a lot of things I wanted it to do. Like, it definitely hit expectations for me. I think of like the general community and like the general RPG community that we're a part of and all of that. Like, I feel like I was kind of like beating the drum about this game the loudest. I was very excited about this game, and I know a lot of people weren't very. I won't say weren't very interested, but they were definitely like unsure about this, and like not really, not like it seemed like a lot of people were worried. A lot of people were worried and like not sure if they really wanted it. And I know I was like, I'm getting this game. I'm not gonna get the special edition. Like I don't get special editions usually. So I was like, I'm getting the game. I'm super excited about it. And I had said, even if you didn't like it, like, and we didn't do it for the podcast, I was still gonna play it before whatever we replaced it with. So I was like, that is definitely gonna be the case. Like I am playing this game regardless. I'm super excited for this game. And so I think in that regard, I kind of, again, it checked all the boxes it needed for me. And
yep.
Yeah, I can't complain. I think I've said my complaints.
Yeah,
but they were.
I feel like the few things that I had with it are super nitpicky.
Yeah, exactly.
In the end,
it's little things.
And I think this game really benefits, like, because it's a new IP and people are more hesitant with their money when they're spending full game. We've been burned so many times as consumer gamers and stuff where games just do not live up to the hype or anything like that. So I can understand people being skeptical and stuff. But one thing that this game does really well, which I wish more games would do, is give a demo that lets you really feel out the game before you purchase it.
I feel like a lot of games are starting to do, like, I feel like
it's starting to become more that common sake, and it's good because it's like with nowadays, it's like you just don't know if you're gonna like, and spending $90 on a game is a lot of money, so like you want to know if you're gonna love it or not.
That is $90 Canadian. We do have to be.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. $90 Canadian on a game.
Not $90 USD, just in case people are like, this is a $60 USD game.
Okay, yeah. This is a $60 USD game, which is roughly $85, $90 Canadian. And so, yes, thank you for correcting that, because I would have just scared a lot of people off.
Yeah, you would have.
But I think as such, it's like these kind of games and stuff like that, and especially new IPs, when game companies are trying new IPs and stuff, a demo is super important, and a demo to at least let you really experience the game, enough of it to make a decision on whether to buy it or not. I think Unicorn Overlord does that really well, and yeah, I think I'm glad that more games are starting to do that more. I definitely think RPGs really need to start doing that more.
And there definitely are some. Like, I mean, yeah. I know the Octopath games, for example. Like, I think the difference is a good
example too. They did it too.
I think the difference is that this game allowed you to really move, like, carry over your save, which I actually didn't end up doing. I ended up restarting and continuing on, even past like I didn't carry over my save from when I'd started it. But in general, I think this game, like, that's the piece of it with the demo that I think is really important. Like, because I mean, we used to have demos all the time. Now we don't really have as many demos, although bigger games are definitely starting to bring demos back in and incorporate demos. But I think in general, having the ability to do, like, this is a long game. So having the ability to play a demo for like 5 hours, really get a taste of the game, and then be able to carry over everything that you did into the main story is really exciting. And I think that's something that really needs to be sort of re-implemented for a lot of games. So
yeah, and I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you 100% on that. And yeah, I agree, and I think it should be more mainstream going forward, because this game really did it well. And I'm right there with you, the same score. I had the exact same score. I have it literally written down right here. I had a 9 out of 10 as well. I think it's a, like, I would, for me, like, it might be a little bit more closer to 9.5, but I think I'm going to stick at the 9. And I think it's super great. I think it's such a great blend. I think it was really refreshing of a game to play, being such a good blend between RTS and tactics with a little bit of the RPG elements in there as well. I liked a lot of, like, the characters, even though there were 70 of them. I like that they each have a little bit of their own little thing going on. I like that there's a new game plus for more challenging aspects of the game. I like that there's you start off with like 4 levels of difficulty, which I think is great, and that just appeases to like everybody from the beginner player who's never played an RPG before to the more expert tactics or RTS players or more tactics players and stuff that are more experienced being in the expert and everybody in between. Like it's a game that appeases to everyone, which you can't always say that about RPGs. Sometimes they're just not super like jump in user friendly, especially some older RPGs. And so yeah, definitely 9 out of 10. This game was fantastic. I had a lot of fun with it. And I will definitely replay it again. Maybe get the other 42 characters I did get ending.
I'm shaking my head.
That
is ridiculous.
I can see you right now that you're shaking your head. You're like, no, no.
Pretty much. It's a force to do. That is, you know what? If you're enjoying it, do your thing. But not gonna be me. No. Yeah. Not gonna 70 endings, hard pass. Even if I do have to
you're
do
gonna go with the permadeath of units and.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna do. I'm gonna do the masochist run and like, yeah, that's gonna definitely be something I do at some point. Okay, so yeah, I think we're good on this game.
Episode. Yeah.
Just to mention it, just like a very, very small like teaser. The next game we're doing is Breath of Fire 2. Yes. We might have another episode coming up. We're not entirely sure yet. So Breath of Fire 2 episode is gonna be actually airing in June. But we don't want to like, this was a long time off in between like doing the Last Story podcast episode and then doing this one basically 2 months later. So we're thinking we might throw something in for May. That'll be a little bit of we'll be switching it up a little bit. Yeah. So Breath of Fire 2. So I will be playing the Game Boy Advance version. Polly, I don't know, are you playing the SNES version or are you playing the Game Boy Advance version?
I'm probably going to play the... I'm kind of torn between it, but I think I'm leaning on playing the Game Boy Advance version as well.
Okay, so it seems like we're both going to play the Game Boy Advance version, which I heard had some...
I have a physical copy of the Game Boy Advance version, and if I were to play the SNES one, it would be through the Switch thing, so it's like, I'm kind of leaning more on the GBA, but... Yeah.
Okay,
and
cool.
The reason why, so Breath of Fire 2 doesn't sound like it's like, we've seen it's like about a 40-ish hour game. It's not that it's going to take 2 months. It's just with KJ and I's like schedules and stuff like that. We had to break up the 3 in a row. So we have Breath of Fire 2 is going to be like, we're going to do it in June. We might have a special episode in May if our schedules work, or if scheduling works out, we're going to have a special episode. And then July and August is Golden Sun, The Dark Dawn. Again, it's not a game we think will take that long. It's because then I get super busy and he has more... his schedule is really super busy, especially in July. I'm really super busy in August. So, and then July leading up to August because it'll be con prepping and stuff. So it just ended up being like, it was just a little bit easier for our schedules to like do that. And we're going to see if we can have like a special episode in July and May. But again, it all depends on how things work. But yes, Breath of Fire 2 is the next game. For those of you who want to join us in playing that off stream, you'll have 2 months to play it with us. So there's different versions you can play. Like there's a Super Nintendo version on the Switch. If you have the Switch Online, pay for the Switch Online for the Super Nintendo pack, it is there. Or if you want to collect it, there's the Super Nintendo version or the GBA version, which is, we both have the GBA version, so actual physical copy. So probably be the ones that we play.
Yeah. So that gives you a good idea of sort of what's to come. That'll be the next episode. So I guess without further ado, we're good to go here. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all for the next one.
Yeah, it's still so weird not to rate out.
Oh, it's super weird not to rate out. Okay, so
yes.
We're done on the recording side. So here we are. We're still talking. We're still live on YouTube, so there is that. But yeah, so hopefully everybody enjoyed. Again, welcome in everybody. Everybody should play Breath of Fire 2 with us. That'll be hype.
Please click the like button on the video.
Yes,
hit the like
also
button.
do that.
Thank you.
But yeah, Breath of Fire 2 should be good. And then Golden Sun, Dark Dawn.
I like how you say that in a different tone.
Oh no, I actually just got the guide for it, so I'm not.
Oh yeah,
too worried.
I saw that, which I was really shocked that you got, but then I was like, okay, this is interesting. Okay,
I got it because
if you don't like it, you're gonna sell it as a set.
I mean, there's that too. I didn't think about that, but no, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. I'm gonna like the game. It's gonna be good.
You're gonna like the game. It's gonna be good as you look down.
It'll be fine.
We'll
It'll be fine. I'm not worried. I'm more worried about some other games that we have on the list.
Really?
Yeah, I'm actually more worried about Star Ocean than I am about Golden Sun.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
I'm more worried about Star Ocean than I am Golden Sun.
Yeah, I'm actually a little concerned about it too. It's a game I never got through, so yeah.
This was your idea. Star Ocean was your suggestion.
I know, because I want to do all the Star Ocean games. Like I want to do it.
Star Ocean was your suggestion.
Yes. I don't remember 4 being super bad, so I'm hoping that'll still check out. But 5 is gonna be tough. 5 is gonna be tough.
Yeah, have fun with that. I'm not beating. This is my last Star Ocean game.
Yeah, this is gonna be your last one.
4 is my last Star Ocean game.
No, you're gonna play the remake of the 2, aren't you?
Yeah, but I already beat Star Ocean 2, so that doesn't count. Yeah. This is my last new experience with Star Ocean.
Yes, unless they make more. But yeah.
Yes. Star Ocean 5 is bad. Wait, it's no different than Symphonia? See, okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna have to replay Symphonia to realize if I have a theory that I don't actually like Tales of Symphonia. I just thought that I did and enjoyed it way back in the day. I need to replay that game because I'm starting to worry that I don't actually like that game. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I need to replay it. I have it on the shelf. I'll play it at some point. Especially considering the next game I'm playing is Tales of the Abyss. So, yeah. But
on or off stream?
On stream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was
oh yes,
selected
right.
for that was selected for the next game after Uden.
Oh, who ended up winning?
Sappy won it.
Oh, Sappy won it. Yeah, I ended up having to go to bed, so I missed that.
Oh no, I literally posted it while you were streaming earlier. That's why.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that would check out then. I literally got off stream, ate food, watched an episode with Angel eating with Eno, and then came right back on here. So, I have not looked at any social media. I'm sorry if anybody's messaged me.
Also, yes, shout out to Orphan. Orphan, fantastic game. And don't try to ask me to replay it. And don't try to show me any videos of it. Orphan's a good game. Port Break, you are 100% right.
Scion of Sorcery?
Yeah. Orphan's a good game.
Oh my god!
I don't want to hear anything about it.
I want to see the anime. I want to go back and actually see the anime.
That door is closed. I own the game. It's on the shelf. I'm never playing it again. It's there because I enjoy having the game. And yeah, no, I'm not ruining that nostalgia.
Fun fact,
I won't do it.
I ended up really liking that game because the main character was described to me similarly to the character in Shadow Hearts, Yuri. And so I played that or whatever, and I have fond memories of that character and everything in that game. And you're right, I'm in the same boat where I'm like, I don't want nostalgia to ruin this for me. I'm just gonna leave this here, and we're happy. We're happy campers, and we're good. Yep.
Yeah.
I need to beat Abyss 2. I've never played it. Thanks to KJ, I have a copy of it now.
True.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. But yeah, so I think we can wrap up. It is weird not rating out.
It is really weird. It is really weird not rating out.
Very, very weird. So yeah, we'll
our Twitch streamers being like, this is weird, YouTube. But
yeah. I mean, I guess you can rate out if you have if you're certain level of YouTube partner or whatever, I think. I think you can rate out. I think you get more options to do things when you're YouTube partnered. Yeah. Okay. We are very far away from that. So yeah. YouTube needs a raid function. I think they have one. It's just like it's not something that is accessible to us normal YouTube folks. You have to be like special partnered YouTube folks. I have a feeling Abyss will be my favorite game. Not sure though. I heard nothing but good things about Abyss. Like I enjoyed Vesperia. I think I enjoyed Symphonia. It's been so long, I don't entirely remember it. Like I played through it with my older brother, with the co-op functionality. So I remember that, but it's been so long, I don't actually remember it. All that, like I don't remember why I enjoyed it, I guess is really the thing. Like I remember it. I don't remember why I enjoyed it. Yo, Valentine's, welcome in.
Oh, hi, Valentine.
But yeah, so that's really it. Like I'm just not sure about that. I think in general, I need to play some of the earlier ones to like really know how I feel about it. And we're actually playing Fantasia in December. So
yeah, I'm really excited about that. Just for to try like the older Tales games, because Zillia was okay, but I gave up on Berseria. I didn't even get through that. I'm also in the same boat as you, being like, is Symphonia a nostalgic thing for me, or is it actually where I actually really did love the game? So I'm like kind of in that weird fence there. And I haven't played Abyss. I want to try Abyss, and I haven't played Eternia. Eternia is another one I want to play. But again, that's an older one. So, but with all the talk on Arise, I'm like, I'm gonna wait a little longer for Arise.
I'm indifferent about Tales of Arise. There's stuff I like, there's stuff I don't like. That's really what it comes down to with Arise.
Yeah, you're 50-50, and then Peastone I don't think liked it at all. I don't think really liked it.
I think there's problems.
And then Key really
game.
loves it, so I don't know.
There's degrees everywhere. The Stunlock. I'm gonna be mad. Oh my goodness. We'll see what happens. Crowned, we will see what happens.
In what? Stunlock and what?
I'm guessing Fantasia.
Oh, okay. My RNG is gonna pull out again. Don't you worry, Crowned. Crown's just gonna think I have a horseshoe up my butt, and
like 40% okay, /60% not that great on Arise. That's kind of where I'm at, Ruku. It's like it was a very like 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 game for me. And I know I think that's a controversial take. Like it's only recently that I've started hearing people critical about Arise. It seems like most people love that game. Like Tales of Arise gets a lot of hype from a lot of people. Not from me.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think that'll be an interesting one to look into and see how you feel about that. That'll be interesting. 'Cause you have it, right? You have Arise, Polly?
Yep, I do.
Yeah.
Yep, I do own it. I got it like for like $30 or something like that. So
yeah.
Canadian.
So I think it'll be interesting to see how you feel about it.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious if I'm gonna like it or not. But yeah.
Okay, it's very much dodge simulator, no enemy stagger battle system, plus no enemy stagger battle system. I hate. Oh, okay.
Kitty cat's.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, I don't know. Arise. Yeah, it was. I didn't enjoy it, and like I enjoyed the story to certain points, and then it kind of spiked, and I wasn't a big fan. So
interesting.
That was kind of a pain. But yeah, I think we can wrap up here. Yeah. So thank you everybody. And yeah, we'll do our best to be back in May at some point. Obviously we'll keep y'all posted.
A special episode in May, but it'll all depend on our schedules and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the next one is going to be end of June, and it's going to be Breath of Fire 2.
Yep, I might start the game tonight because you have already played some of it, so I.
That's true. I have.
Yeah, you've already played a bunch of it, so I might start the game tonight. So.
And I think I actually did play it on the GBA that I have. So. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome. Well, bye
Thanks
everyone.
Everybody for hanging out.
This is gonna be really strange because we're just gonna click the end button.
I know. It's so weird. Bye. Thanks for hanging out,
Later.
guys.